Hello, I've got the squirrel dress on today, which means we know that it's autumn. At my window I have had my summer pom-pom garland up, but that needs to go because it's not summer anymore. Let's embrace the lovely new season by making ourselves an autumn garland that's going to look fabulous hanging at my window. Now, if you don't have a window that's exactly a metre long like mine, you can also turn it into a wreath if that's what you would prefer. It doesn't matter, whatever suits. I'm going to show you how to make these leaves. So what do we need? We're going to do a two-part video with our autumn garland. So there's some needle felted items on here, and there's also some paper crafted ones and a couple of other things in between. And today we're going to look at the paper one. Next week we'll come back for needle felting. So to make our flower, no, not our flowers, it's not summer anymore, our leaves, we're going to need some paper in autumny colours. Now you can use really fancy craft paper, you can use origami paper like this one, you could use something out of your old copy of WI Life or any magazine you've got around, as long as you can fold it so that it's not too thick. As long as you can fold it, that will work. Now we need to have squares. So obviously a coaster is a fabulous thing to draw around, a nice handmade one in this case. If you don't have a coaster, and who doesn't, you need to either measure out a circle, or sometimes when you're buying a craft pack, you end up with something like that at the back, and I save those so I have a perfect square. I'm going to do one which is 10 centimetres because that happens to fit what I want, but it really doesn't matter. The square is the important thing. If you want it bigger or smaller, you just adjust it. So you need to choose your papers in autumny kind of colours, and I'm going to show you a dark red one. So obviously if we're doing a paper craft, we're also going to need some scissors. If you don't have something to draw around, you will need a ruler and a pencil and some form of glue, which I've just realised I've forgotten to get out for you, but thankfully right behind me here is a glue stick. Okay, now to make these stick together, you also might need to use a peg to stick those together, but I'll show you that in just a moment. So you need to prepare your squares. So in order to make one leaf, we're going to need two squares like this. Okay, so go and cut yourself two squares that are the same colour, and I'll come back in a moment. So now that we have our two squares, we are going to make this leaf, like a maple leaf or a sycamore leaf, depending on where you are. So the first thing we need to do, getting one of our pieces of paper, I'll just move the other ones out of the way so that we can see nice and clearly. Getting this, we're going to fold it corner to corner. We've done that before, and my paper is double-sided, so it doesn't matter which way round you're doing. If you do want a nice pattern, we'll just come to which side we're going to be doing with in a moment. Okay, you saw me making a good fold then. Remember that that's the secret to all paper crafts, a good fold like that. Okay, then we're going to open it up and we're going to cut it in half so that we end up with a triangle like that. Okay, so we will end up with one big triangle, which we have here. Now I'm going to take that one and fold it again, the long sides together, like that. Okay, so we've got the long side to the long side to make that. And again, we're going to cut that in half. Okay, so now we have two small triangles. We have one big triangle and we have two small triangles. Then we're going to get the one that we've got left over here, and we're going to fold it in exactly the same way as that. Okay, so we've got our two small triangles. We're going to cut that, and we're going to just keep one of them. We're going to fold that alongside to long side so that we have a small triangle, and we're going to cut that. So now we will have some left over, and you can save those because you're going to use those in a little bit. So if you've got 1.5 left over, you will now end up with one big, two medium and two small, and that is what's going to make our leaf. One big, two medium, two small, like that. Okay, Now this might be familiar to anybody who did our spring wreath with a slight change, because we are now going to fold it. Now, if you do have a pattern that you want, you need to be keeping the pattern to the front side and the bit that you don't want to the back side. But really, by the time we folded it up, it's going to look different anyway. So we're now going to concertina fold this, starting at the top pointy end there, like that. You're going to go one way, and then you're going to go the other way. You're going to go one way, and you're going to go the other way. Now you're ending up with that sort of thing. Don't pull yours out like I just did. That's just to show you. Okay, now my folds are about 1/2 centimetre, but again, it depends on your size and it depends on exactly how you want it to look. Just fold it down, making sure every fold is good. I'm pushing hard on that there. So you have ended up with that. Okay, so it looks like it's flat. Okay, like that. If I were to open it up, that's what it would look like. Okay, but you don't need to open it up. You need it squashed down like that. Okay, and then you need to do the same thing with your other ones, your big ones and your little ones, and you're trying to keep them all sort of even. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm going to have a little word about glue. It depends on your paper. If you are doing this from a magazine, then it will be perfectly fine for you to use glue stick. That will be no problem, that will stick it together. If you're using some craft paper which is quite rough, at school we call that kind of paper sugar paper. If it's a little bit rough to the feel, or if it's quite thick, bordering on the thin card sort of side of things, then you might need to use PVA. And I'm actually going to show you both of them when we do it today, because I've got a little trick for you as to how to effectively use the PVA just to make it stick together. If you have a glue gun, you can also use that, and that will be quick and stick easily, but you have to be careful not to make it too thick in between. Right, so we're concertina folded with every one of them now. Obviously the little ones haven't got too much in there, but you've concertina folded all 5 of them. So now we're going to find the middle, and you can see that because of where your point is here, and we're going to fold that in. Now that is what we did on the spring flower wreath when we ended up making a leaf that looked like this one. Okay, so that will make you a simple leaf, and it's nice to add some of those into your garland as well, like a beech leaf. So there are some hanging in here that are just ordinary ones of different kinds of colours and different kinds of sizes, like that one. But we're going to make it into a slightly bigger way now. So you need to get your glue, and you need to put it down the middle. Now be careful with the glue on this one. I must say the first time I did it, I got a bit of glue all over the place and it looked a bit untidy. Don't go crazy, we're only sticking paper together. So make sure you've glued down the middle there, and you've got it like that, and then you open it up. If your top looks a little bit untidy, like that one does, you can trim it at this stage. Just chop those little bits off. And there you've ended up with that. And that's sticking together perfectly well with that. But the next one we're going to do. So we're going to get the same thing here with our medium-sized leaf. Fold it in half, and your glue is going to be going inside here. I'm just going to show you. I've put some PVA. PVA is the white glue, sometimes called school glue, and it dries clear. So I put some in the bottom of my little pot there, but I'm going to use a cocktail stick. I use a cocktail sticks in a lot of crafts because you really don't want this going everywhere, making it dirty. So you're only getting a tiny bit of glue up like that. So even that's probably too much actually. Just a tiny bit, and then you're going to push it along here with your cocktail stick, just making it really lightly smoothed along there, and the cocktail stick helps you to do that. Now you're going to put that together, and you're going to use a peg, just an ordinary peg, to stick this together. It's ever so funny because my cat is called Peg, and she has just walked in at this moment right behind me. Just as I said you need a peg, my peg appeared. That's what you're going to do, and you're going to leave that down while you do exactly the same thing with the next one. So put your glue along there, fold it up together. You'll notice this time I glued before I folded, but it doesn't really matter which one you do. And then put on your peg to make it sure. Okay, so you can use your glue stick as well, or you can use that, and it really does depend on the kind of paper that you're using and also what you've got. I like our crafts to be accessible to everybody, and not everyone has a glue gun and not everyone has some PVA. If you don't have any cocktail sticks, you can find those, and there are endless amounts of use for them. The cats are now having a fight in the background, goodness me. Okay, so when you have got that far, you need to give those just a few minutes to dry, but it's really just a few minutes, not much longer than that. And then you need to get those out, and we're now going to stick them all together. So remember, you're still squashing all of this. Now I'm going to get the PVA here, and I'm going to put it just along this little edge here. Now don't go much further than that. Can you see where that is? Don't go much further. Just put a bit of glue on there, and then get your medium-sized one and put that next, holding them down together. Get your small-sized one, bit of glue on there, and put that together. And making sure that all of these ones are lined up, that the end ones are lined up, and there's a certain amount of holding going on at this stage. So I've now got my second medium one and my last small one. And this is where you need your peg again now. So squash all of those together, and you can wriggle them around at this stage, making sure that they're smooth, that they're all stuck together, that it looks like the right thing. And now get your peg again. Now, squash that like that. Can you see how I've put that in there like that? Can you see that, director? Yep. So we've got it like that. And now we need to leave that to dry. When you undo it, you need to be very careful as you're undoing it, because these parts are stuck and the other bits aren't. You don't want it to do that. I left that one deliberately undone there because that one should have been stuck together. So I can just put a little bit of extra glue on there and that's fine. But when I was unpeeling, I unpeeled that bit by mistake. So you just need to rearrange them carefully, getting your fingers in until you're happy with that shape. And you will end up with one like that. You really do need to leave it a little bit longer to dry than I just did there. You know, leave it on there. But you can see, even at that stage, it's beginning to come off. And you can leave it like that if you want. Or open it further out. Now, that's not going to be stuck, so I'm going to put that back to dry for a little bit. Now, you can do that in any colours. So that was obviously a red one, but remember that we have still a lot of green leaves, and I've used the darker green there. You can use those ones simply. And this was one done with a origami paper. Now, to make them go onto your garland, of course it depends on what you're doing. If you are doing this one, then you need to glue them on. Glue gun will make that easier to go onto there, but PVA will do, you just have to leave it flat. The wreath itself is just a plate drawn around on some cardboard, like from packaging, something that came through the post. I had some craft items come through the post the other day, and you just draw around a plate, cut on the inside there, a little bit hard on the hands doing that. That's a chenille rod, or pipe cleaner, glue gunned onto the back. And you've got those all stuck around together. If you are going to do it onto a piece of string to use as a garland, you are going to use a needle and thread and stick through. Now, you need to go right through that middle section. If you can see where that is like that. So the bit where you were connected, right in the middle there, that's where you need to shove your needle through. And then tie it on so that they end up all nicely like that. Now, the other thing you can do is stick them together in a circle like this to make them into a star, and that's what I have done in the middle. Now, I must admit that it is much easier to do that with a glue gun because it will help you with that last one to pull it around. It's exactly the same thing with each one, to pull it around like that. And it is easier. If you are using PVA, you probably have to wait for it to dry and using some pegs in between. I put a button in the middle because I'm a big fan of buttons, actually, so that looks really nice like that. If you did that in just red and green, it will end up as a Christmassy one, or even as Christmas paper, it will end up as a star. So there are some pom-poms on here, which were just made with my tiny little pom-pom maker. You can look at the last video. And tomorrow at the Zoom, we will talk about how to make the felt leaves to add on there as well. You may have noticed behind me there was a different wreath as well. I'm also a crocheter, and so I have made this wreath with a little a little wintry sheep in the middle there with a jumper on. We will be learning crochet later on, but we'll come back for that one later. See you next week, and we'll add some more to our garland.